Hey, it's great to hear that music on this Wednesday afternoon. That means it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. Hello, everybody. I'm John Harper. Jim Votro is here. And let's introduce the host of the show and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here is none other than Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, good afternoon, John Harper, and thanks for the kind introduction. It's always good to gather here at the radio Wednesdays, 12 noon to 1 p.m. right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. And if you're listening online, we appreciate that as well. You can always tune us in at WEJF.net. And many of you choose to find this as a podcast, especially when we talk about something important and good to know, like we're going to talk about today. This show might be good to repeat, or it may be very appropriate for somebody you know and care about. And that's why we make these programs available every place that you find podcasts. And I mean every place, from Apple iTunes to Amazon Music to iHeartRadio to Spotify. The list goes on. Good Pods. We're going to be there because our mission as a 100% local to Brevard County nonprofit is we exist for no other reason than to try to provide information, education, and connecting seniors and their families to resources that make a difference. And so without kind of further ado, I want to go ahead and welcome our guest. He's no stranger to the Helping Seniors organization. He helped from the day this organization, kind of like John Harper. Everybody rallied around Joe Steckler, our founder, and Joe had just finished building the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation and those Joe's Clubs, and said there's more work to be done for seniors. And 15 years ago, they signed on the day Joe started this. And here we are 15 years later, and we have more work to do than ever before. Isn't that right, Dr. Lee Sheldon?
That is absolutely right. And let's talk about John Harper for a moment, because John provided the ability for us to communicate to the outside. John owned a radio station for many, many years, and John and Joe got together, and John provided the opportunity for us to get the message out there. And John still is with us today. And John, thank you. Thank you for everything you've done. And look at where we are 15 years later, partly as a result of you.
Yeah. I think that is so true, Dr. Sheldon, because I remember when I met John, and I always tell people I'm the new kid on the block because I only met Joe as he was forming this. But as a media guy, he said, Kerry, I want to do the same thing that I used to do in the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation. I want to get the information in the hands of seniors and families. And I used radio, I used TV, and I used a lot of print in those days. And those three things are still things that we do every day. And of course, John Harper was the guy that really got everything rolling with Helping Seniors Radio, and here we are all these years later. So it's so important. I was just telling somebody the other day, Dr. Sheldon, we have a beautiful center. It's called the Senior Resource Center. And we actually named it after Joe. So we call it Joe's Senior Resource Center, but it's located in the Omni Medical Building on the second floor right there in downtown Melbourne, kind of on the medical campus, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard. But we always say, Dr. Sheldon, that it's great for people who are reasonably within the neighborhood. Somebody might drive 15 miles to come to an event we're holding there, but it's not as likely somebody from MIMS or MICO is going to drive in for an event, which is one of the reasons why this outreach via media, whether it's what we're doing today on the radio or the TV or the print, is so important to us.
Yeah, it is. And that's why we spend so much time doing this. Everybody has their favorite venue. Even if you lived on Apollo Boulevard, sometimes you want to go attend. But some people read Senior Scene magazine. Some people listen to us here. Some people see us in other formats, because we also go out into the community. As a matter of fact, we've got some things going on in the community coming up. So we get there, you get to us. The whole idea is to provide resources so that seniors do well and they work with honest people who can provide them with good services. Yeah, there are other things too. There's the housing and that type of thing, but there's and which is important. I don't mean to minimize that, but for those who are looking for, particularly these days, and you run this program called Scam Jam, you know, people will take advantage of seniors, and the fact that you've got a number of people who are supporting Healthy Seniors of Brevard who are vetted and they provide honest to goodness real services that are valuable, can make a big difference to the senior population, which is spending more and more money on personal care as we get older. As we get older, we need more maintenance. So there's more things and more things we have to buy in order to be able to take care of ourselves. And that's why Helping Seniors of Brevard has so much support. And we can rely on the people who are supporting to provide you with good services.
Yeah, that's so well said, because really that was Joe's point at the outset. He said, you know, what he'd learned in Brevard Alzheimer's, he said some families are challenged with cognition and issues that are going on with a member of the family. But he goes, every senior is going to run into something that they're going to need help to navigate. And so that's what we do. We call it senior navigation. And when you call our helpline, I'm going to give you that number here in just a second, give you a second to grab something to take that number down with. But we took 4,500 calls last year from everybody. And it's about everything: housing, legal, medical, transportation. You just name it. We probably had a call on it. Pet care. It's unbelievable. And Nancy and her team of volunteers do an excellent job of putting it all together and trying to make sure that we are uncovering what might be a good solution for any kind of situation folks are running into. We try to help folks navigate to the next safe harbor on that aging journey. And so that number is 321-473-7770. I will say that again so you get plenty of time to make sure you got it down correctly. 321-473-7770. And so kind of with that, I'm going to ask you to keep that notepad handy, because we're going to go through, there are a bunch of events, as Dr. Sheldon was sharing with us, and I'm going to make sure that we hit a couple of these. In fact, I'll talk about one of them right now, Dr. Sheldon. That's actually happening tomorrow. We're talking about 11 a.m. It's actually happening at the Senior Resource Center, and it's a tasty event. It's called Nourish Your Spirit, and that's an event that is hosted by one of our favorite people in the world. Her name is Chef Jillian. She's with Chefs for Seniors, and basically, to put it mildly, it's a free lunch, but more importantly than that, it's an opportunity to learn how to make a very tasty, very affordable, and very, I would call it doctor-approved kind of diet. What she does is she specializes in making sure that we have knowledge about, you know, the doctor sends you home and says, I want you to have this kind of a diet. It's better for you. And then we go and do the wrong thing. And Chef Jillian is going to help us do the right thing, Dr. Sheldon.
So important. So important. I think, you know, all of us who are in the healthcare field know that the basics are we've gotten used to things that are cooked for us, and we buy it in the freezer or we buy it in the can or the box. And of course, the old story was, I mean, now they're talking about ultra processed foods and how bad they are. Okay. We didn't talk about that then. The way we talked about it was you've got food that's been made by a machine. The machine gets all the good stuff. You get everything else. So,
oh, wow.
You know, when we have Chef Jillian there who can work with what you need and what you want and can make it easy and affordable for you to cook it. You know, cooking is, unfortunately, it's become a bit of a lost art, hasn't it? And it's not that difficult. You know, there are some simple things you can do, and tasty things you can do too. And so not only will you have the opportunity of delicious food, but you'll learn how to make it yourself.
Yeah. And what I love about this is it's like, usually if you see a cooking show, they film this in some master chef's kitchen and they have the super expensive refrigerator and the top line gas stove and they have all these accoutrements. And what I love what Chef Jillian does when she does Nourish Your Spirit, because literally we just do it there in our little classroom, which is actually part of our lobby. And she sets up a couple of 6-foot folding tables. She brings out a little tabletop skillet and she cooks up the most tasty things, and it is kind of proof positive that you don't have to have all this fancy stuff. It's Dr. Sheldon. How many times have I heard you talk about shop around the outside of the grocery store because that's where the real food is? And that's what she's doing. And she shows you how to buy these ingredients very cost effectively. So you're not like having to break your budget. It's just good, it's healthy, and it's fun, and it's tasty at the end of the day too.
Boy, isn't that true? And there's one exception. I got to put that in there, and I'm sure Chef Jillian will talk about this too. There are a number of different frozen vegetables that you can buy that, frankly, make it easier to cook. And they're frozen, meaning it's the frozen vegetable. And of course, I think we'd prefer organic if we can, but not the one that's flavored with sauce. It's the plain old vegetable, and all we have to do is open the bag, and all of a sudden we don't have any cutting to do. So when we're talking about cauliflower, we're talking about broccoli, we're talking about peas, that type of thing. It's very easy to cut open the bag and just pour it in, and you've got even less work to do. And that is not processed food. That is whole food, and it's picked. It's frozen at the peak of flavor, just picked. And sometimes you'll do better with those frozen vegetables than you will with fresh.
Great advice, and more great advice headed your way tomorrow. So we need you to RSVP because she needs to know how many groceries to shop for. So you got to call us at 321-473-7770 and say, hey, I heard you guys talking about Nourish Your Spirit with Chef Jillian, presented by Senior Helpers of Melbourne. And we would love to see you there. So give them a call today and we will see you tomorrow. So that kind of moves us, and we'll have more events to talk about. But I want to get into the heart of the show because we were going back and forth. So what is our topic for the month going to be? And last time we were on the radio together, Dr. Sheldon, we talked about the fact that you have been doing dental implants for 40 years in our community. We often call you the father of dental implants. We talked a lot in that last radio show, which, by the way, is another reason why we do podcasts and make these things available on our YouTube channel, Facebook page, website, is because people may want to go back and pick up that show as well. But it was interesting to hear your perception of how, I guess, kind of in the medieval days of when this first started, you guys were having to, really take some leaps of faith to make sure that the dental implants work. Whereas now with computer modeling and everything, you guys are like just rip snorting through it, right?
Yeah, I love it when patients say, this technology is fantastic. I just love what you're doing here. I say, no, what was fantastic is that we were able to be successful without all this technology. So yeah, I mean, listen, you and I have talked a lot about we're way over treating with dental implants than we are, but I've got to talk about what we do for a living, and we do dental implants for a living in our practice. So it's nice. I mean, we're in a saving teeth practice, or a dental implant practice, and we can give you some perspective on what's better for you because we do both. But yeah, let's talk about dental implants a little bit, because in the title of the program that's going to be in Senior Scene magazine in July, the title of my essay is going to be, Are All Implants the Same? And I think that's a real question. We've talked about, are all implant practitioners the same? We'll cover that a little bit today. But are all dental implants the same? And the answer is, just as people are marketing to you with their varying products, and there are differences within the products, and therefore you will buy this air conditioner versus that air conditioner. You'll buy this food rather than that food. Yeah, we've got a number of different brands of dental implants, and no, they're not all the same. But do they all create the same result? The answer is yes. when we are looking at dental implants, we're looking at them for a particular reason. We want to make sure the implant is compatible with what we want to do surgically, and we want to make sure that it's easily restorable so that we can put teeth on the dental implants. And different people have different requirements. We all do for everything. That's why there's so many differences in every product here. But the bottom line is, and we're going to talk about more about the bottom line, but just to introduce this, it's not the dental implant. It's the person who's placing the dental implant that makes all the difference in the world.
Wow. I was smiling because I was thinking, like, we have done a lot of shows along the way talking about, do you really need that implant? And as a periodontist, you are trained and brought up in the way of thinking, can I save this tooth? Is this the right thing to do? And so a lot of times you look at that first, and yet still your practice, I think you were telling me that all the folks who serve in this industry were saying you guys are still by far the largest provider of dental implants in our area, and you have 4 decades of experience to back it up. And I guess the challenge, Dr. Sheldon, is when we see, a TV commercial that says, oh, you can just blah, blah, blah. And we think, well, it's just all the same. And I guess I never stopped to think about the concept that dental implants could be different. In fact, we were joking, but we were just kind of bantering before the show of talking about being in a Lowe's store and not really understanding, like somebody says, well, there's a difference in hardware. There's a difference in screws. You don't just go into Lowe's and say, I need a screw, because they want to know, is it a wood screw? How long does it need to be? Is it a machine screw? You have all these different things that you got to consider. And I guess I never really thought about it until you suggested the title. But I guess it's probably the same in dental implants, right?
Exactly right. Think about it at a hardware store. Oh, I'll tell you, if any dental professionals are listening now, are they going to get sick about what I say? But okay, that's nothing new. I mean, have I been controversial before? Sure, I'll be controversial again. Yeah, you go into a hardware store, you're right. I mean, there's some textures, nails that are covered with different things there, and there are different thread designs, as you said. All of those things are there. But when it comes right down to it, it's who's the carpenter? Who's putting this whole thing together? Where's that nail put? If you put the nail too close to the edge, what's going to happen to the wood? All of those things are so much more important than the implant itself. You take a skilled surgeon, you can get any implant, and that implant is going to do better with a skilled surgeon. Why do I still work, Kerry? There are a couple of reasons I still work. Number one, because I like it. I like patient contact. That I haven't done any serious dentistry in over 11 years, right? You know that. That. But I get the opportunity for patient contact, and I can give them advice, and I can give them choices to what is going to work. And the reason I can do that is because we've got 3 dentists. I'm not included here. There's 4 of us altogether. But I've got 3 dentists who are really capable of providing the work and doing the work right the first time and getting it done and providing a predictable result. So it makes it very easy for me to be the advice giver, being there a couple of days a week and talking with patients and giving them advice as we go through that complete examination, that 2-hour examination, which we're going to talk about later on, which, by the way, if you donate $50 to Helping Seniors of Brevard, you can get that entire examination, X-ray, CT scan, and a visit with me or one of our other doctors, a 2-hour visit, all for $50 or more to Helping Seniors of Brevard. So there is that opportunity just by listening to this program. Just call anybody at 321-259-8000. Everybody at the office knows about this program. So, but there's, but it's still, it is the confidence that I have in the people. It isn't the implant brand that we use. It's the people who are placing the implants and the people who are restoring the implants that are providing the service that allows you to get the most predictability that we possibly can. And when you have talented people doing the work, you have the opportunity for a more predictable result. Unfortunately, bodies are different. And unfortunately, people take care of themselves in varying ways, and that can affect the long-term outcome. And so certainly we encourage you to be as good as you can. Go to Chef Jillian. Go ahead and learn how to cook. Stop eating sugar. Do good things for yourself, and you'll have a better chance in your entire body, including the success of your dental implants.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, first of all, I appreciate you mentioning the Solid Bite Gives Back program that you guys do, because that's such a blessing to us. But as we've talked about many times, it's really a blessing to the patient because they're going to really understand what needs to be going on. And you, as the doctor, and the medical professionals, you guys really get to see what's going on and really understand so you can make the best recommendation. And I wanted to bring up another point because you had mentioned the fact that you talked about the experience. And I want to, we were at an event on Saturday in the community, and somebody actually got up on stage, was representing one of the folks that was out there. And they made the comments that we don't really call them seniors anymore. They're all trying to find, quote, a nicer term like older Americans or something like that. And I said, I don't know. I remember having this conversation with Joe because I kind of, as a younger person, thought the same thing. And then I got to thinking about it. I said, Dr. Sheldon, when you're a senior in your profession, it means you are revered and respected because it's not your first rodeo. You've been through all this stuff. You've been through any mistakes that needed to be made. You figured out what's the correct path. And so, if you're very proficient in your work, you become a senior vice president, you become a senior executive in charge of, you become a senior. And I think that sometimes we use that word senior in the wrong way. And I was thinking, I do think experience matters. And so when I'm hearing you talk about this in the world of dental implants, I want somebody that has done this for a minute, who knows how all the nuances, everything the risks, the rewards, how to do this correctly. That makes such an important part. And I think so when you get down to the implant, it's very important that you think about who's doing the work, I think.
It is. And, my son has been a dentist for close to 15 years. Dr. Furtado has been a dentist for close to 20 years.
Sure.
Dr. Vladi has been a dentist for 25 years. I mean, so we have experienced people who are working there, and that's great. But you're right. There's a certain amount of judgment at this point. The judgment call is there. And that's what's so great about still working. I'm whatever age I am, I guess. But still every Tuesday at 4 p.m. we have a doctor's meeting to talk about difficult cases. What would you do here? And so we have the opportunity for all four of us to sit and work together and how would this work? And then sometimes it's what's my experience? What has my experience been working in this particular venue? Because there's some things that over the years, if it's rare, by the time you're my age, you've seen just about every rare event. So there are lots of advantages, but it is experience. And, you can get people with a lot of experience, but those experiences may be bad. I'm proud that, the experiences that we have are good. At this point, I'm very much looking at the younger generation. My practice, and for some of the things that we do nationally, I'm looking for people who are going to move the message that we may have participated in early on and make sure that message continues to go forward. So there are people that I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who are going to help make sure that message stays there and that message gets better and better and better, and it gets refined and improved over time. So when we're talking about saving teeth and periodontal endoscopy and all of the things that we do that are a little bit different from what's there in the norm, I don't want that to be a rare thing that only a few hundred dental offices are doing around the country. I want that to be propelled forward. And so there are people that I want to talk to. This particular person I have in mind that I've been in contact with who can propel that message. And she's young and she is already very excited about the things that we've been doing for many years. So it's great to be working in a practice in Brevard County that's well known because of what we provide. But more importantly, it's great to have the people who are working within the practice. And I'm talking about staff as well as doctors who are there only to look out for the best for the patient, not looking at profits, looking at the best for the patient. It's funny, I check our Google reviews on a regular basis, and I love the Google reviews where they talk about, I finally found the office. They're so honest. They spend so much time with me. I've never had a dental exam like this. All of those things just resonate with me so well, because that's the legacy that you want. And the doctors that we have are carrying that on. Now, I've gotten way off the topic of dental implants. Maybe we ought to get back to that. But we have only about a minute and a half before the break, so maybe we'll have to cover that in the second half. I don't know. But let's talk about dental implants for a second.
We are going to dig back into that, but I just wanted, you were basically making my point once again about the value of kind of senior experience and everything in what you were just saying. Like, you are actually called around the country. People call you in to help them learn how to run their practices effectively, and then you're also very much cutting edge on technology. Still, you're the one that's out there seeing what new techniques it can be, and you're kind of, for lack of a better way to put it, you're sharing the wisdom of your experience out there. And I think that really, as we're talking about, that's what makes the, if you become a master carpenter, I guess you could become a master implant expert, because there is that value to having been through it so many times. Like I think about it, you get on an airplane, you don't want somebody who just graduated from flying school. You want somebody who's got thousands of hours under their belt in all kinds of circumstances. They know how to do this safe and effectively, and that's kind of the same thought that it seems like. So, Dr. Lee Sheldon, you talked about the Solid Bite Gives Back program, which is a great way to support the work of helping seniors, but also get the information you need. Just before we go to mid-show break, what is the number if somebody wants to get that information for that program?
321-259-8000. Tell them you want the examination that Dr. Sheldon talked about on the radio, and they'll set you up. $50 to Helping Seniors of Brevard will get you all the x-rays and the full examination.
Now, that sounds great. Well, when we come back on the second half of the Helping Seniors radio show, we are going to get farther into today's topic. Are all implants the same? The answer is no, but find out why next part.
Hey, it's a good-looking Wednesday afternoon. It's always good-looking, especially when we have Helping Seniors of Brevard on the air. I'm John Harper. Jim Votro is here. Dr. Lee Sheldon is the special guest of the program for this week, and our host of the show and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard is here as well. Of course, it's none other than Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. Good to be back for the second half of the Helping Seniors lunch hour every Wednesday right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. We're having a great conversation with Dr. Lee Sheldon, noted area periodontist and also leading provider of dental implants. And we're having the conversation today. Are all implants the same? Aren't we, Dr. Sheldon?
We absolutely are, Kerry, and we're going to talk about implants in this section only. We're not going to talk about anything else. We're going to concentrate on dental implants because that's what we said we were going to do.
Well, that sounds good to me. We are going to save some time because I do want you to keep a notepad handy. We're going to have a whole bunch of events that you're not going to want to miss, and we'll talk about that as we get toward the close of the show. But right now, we started the first half of the show having this conversation that basically we answered the question, are all implants the same? And the answer is no. And it seems to me, Dr. Sheldon, two key takeaways, at least for me, was number one, that they aren't the same, but it has to do probably to some extent because the materials that you're choosing to use have something to do with this. We kind of use the hardware store analogy, like not all screws are the same, not all nails are the same kind of thing. And I guess that's true too. But then the other very important factor is the human factor. It's who's doing the work, what's their capacity, what's their ability. And I wanted to kind of like dive back into the conversation. We'd written down a couple of questions. One of them is like, what about bone quality? Does that affect implant success? And let's just dive right in.
Yeah, just picture a tree, picture wood, maple, oak, balsa wood. Okay, what are the impressions you have with balsa wood or styrofoam? Because we have some bone that is like styrofoam. What do you do in a situation like that? And so, there are people say, well, you only need 4 implants. You only need this. You only need that. The answer is the implant, yes, is important, but the amount of support provided for that implant, both in terms of bone density, bone quality, and bone width and length, are important. If you have a big area of bone, wide, tall, you need fewer implants. If you have poor quality bone, short bone, narrow bone, you've got to do a lot in order to be able to make that kind of bone work. So when we're treatment planning, we're looking at not just the implant, we're looking at what's the implant going into. If you're building a house, it's what kind of supports are you buying for that house? Unfortunately, we can't buy the support. The body has brought us the support that it's given. Now, we can augment that support. We can do some bone grafting in order to be able to provide something better, but it is the body healing around the bone graft that's as important as the bone graft that's placed. And so when we're placing a bone graft, we have to make a bone graft thick enough, dense enough, and with the right products within the bone graft to give it the best chance of becoming good, hard bone, so that when we put the implant in there, the implant will be supported by something that is stable, it will be there for a long time, and can resist the chewing forces that are applied to that dental implant every day.
Yeah, I think this is a thing that we are just, a lot of times I say in today's world where we'll search things out on the internet, there's a tendency to make complicated things feel like it's really simple. Like anytime you watch a YouTube video that shows you how to disassemble anything, they make it say, oh, it's just this easy until you get into it.
Sure.
And then the same is true with most of these different things. And I was going to say, though, I guess a lot of this, there is a lot of skill and judgment that has to go into it. And that's the part you miss when you watch that YouTube video. They make it look simple, but they really have the experience to do it. So I guess a question that comes up as we're working our way through this is, I guess the thought is I'm missing a tooth here, so I need an implant right there. And maybe as a user or as a person that might need the implant, that's kind of where we start. We just go, oh, that's what we need to do. But is that always the correct thing?
It isn't always the correct thing because let's talk about the simplest, which you talked about, is one missing tooth. Okay, and so the answer is you put an implant in the bone, and that implant then supports a new tooth. The implant is a three-step process. Put the implant in. And by the way, that may need a bone graft around it. So that's first step. Second step is the fastener to the implant. And the third is the tooth that goes into the fastener. So three components in every implant. Well, let's assume, for example, you're missing a tooth and you need to do major bone grafting in order to be able to put an implant in. Is that the best choice? And very often the answer is no. The better choice is to do a fixed bridge, something that's attached to the two teeth on either side of the space, because that involves less work for you, less expense for you, and actually more predictability for you. So that when we're doing our evaluation, that's why the evaluations are so important. Yes, we can do anything. I mean, the talent that we have in our practice, we can do anything, but then it's what is the best way of spending your money and what is the shortest treatment time in order to be able to give you the result. That has to enter into the equation as well. And that's why the judgment call is as important as putting the implant in. There's always more than one choice when you see us. There always is. Well, I shouldn't say always, but very often there's more than one choice. And we have to evaluate that choice. Sometimes I'll say you could do it this way, and it's going to require this amount of treatment plan, it's going to cost this much. Or you can do it this way, it's going to involve this amount of treatment plan, it's going to cost this much, and here are the downsides and here are the upsides. So at least we can explain everything that's available to you so you can make the best decision for yourself. We're not educating you to be dentists, but we do want you to educate you to be the best consumer you can so that you're making the right decision. The other thing is not just the replacement of that one tooth that you referred to, because I've got to look at the entire mouth, because dentistry costs money. I mean, it does. I mean, we can't get around that. Dentistry costs money. If we're looking on at replacing one tooth, when there's disease in other areas, that's going to be an expense as well. So I want you to be able to appreciate the overall expense so that you're not just wasting money doing one part when the other parts are failing. So that's what's involved in this full evaluation. We've got to look at the entire, even if you don't need treatment anyplace else, I've got to look every place to make sure you don't need treatment every place else so that your money is being spent wisely.
You know, I have been around you long enough, and we have done enough TV and radio shows that this next question is almost, I can answer it before we even get into it. But as a periodontist, you know, we've had this conversation. We've done a TV show called Are Too Many Teeth Being Replaced and things like that. And it's kind of dovetails with what you were just talking about. If the overall mouth is in difficult condition, it's not going to be as helpful to hosting an implant as it would be as if we had I'm just saying this, maybe I'm not right, but it would seem like if you can work on getting your mouth in better shape, it's going to be better for the teeth that you do have and the teeth you may need to have implanted. And I guess we wrote it as a question. Why do you emphasize saving natural teeth whenever possible? But I would say it seems always like that's your go-to answer. Like, let's see what we can save first.
It is. I do want to see that. I mean, sometimes it's more expensive to save teeth than to do dental implants. So I want to put that into the equation as well. So there are a lot of factors that enter into this so that I can give you the best advice for your case. But still, when I'm giving advice, I'm not just going to say, do this. I'm going to talk about predictability as well as cost, what your expectations are, so that you can make the best decision for yourself. When we're talking about dental implants, though, when we're placing dental implants, Kerry, it's not just the dental implant, even though the dental implants are slightly different. It is the bone support around the dental implants that makes the biggest difference to the patient. The rule in our practice is that the dental implant has to have 2 millimeters of bone around the entire periphery. If there's 2 millimeters of bone around the entire periphery of the implant, then the bone itself survives, and that means the implant within the bone survives. And if it's thinner than that, that bone will gradually wither away. So a lot of things go into this in order to be able to make the best decision for you, to provide you the best dental implant that we can. But yes, it's always implant versus natural teeth. If I can save a natural tooth predictably, then that is the go-to. The implants are great, and I think that's part of the reason why we're doing this program, because we want to talk about how great dental implants are. They are. But just as when any new thing comes out, we all thought that dental implants would replace natural teeth. They don't. You have to be skilled at doing dental implants, but you also have to be skilled at saving natural teeth. And you have to decide which one is the better option for you, given your entire circumstance. So there are a lot of variables that we look at. It's why I implore my staff members, our examining staff members, I want to make sure that they can talk about this, that they can treat and plan correctly. I want to make sure that when we're working with you, that they're not just talking to you about it's going to cost this. It's here are the options you have, and here's what Dr. Sheldon or any of the doctors talked about so that we can make the best decision for ourselves. It's a big part of the 2-hour experience, by the way, is to outline your options. And sometimes it requires more than one visit in order to be able to make these decisions correctly. Whenever we're doing something, whether we're building a house or building a mouth, we want to make sure we're spending as much time as we need to on the planning steps before we actually start building.
I love what you're saying here because we were joking in the first half of the commercial. The first part of the show is that we were saying that all too often you go and hunt some solution on the internet and you're going to see some kind of a YouTube video or somebody where everything is always oversimplified. It's like, oh, look how simple it is. But I noticed the same trend in the when I watch an ad on TV and it says, hey, this place can do an implant for you. And it almost makes it feel like you're going to go through a drive-through. They're just going to pop one in your mouth as you whiz through. And yet what I understand is it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's a little bit more, there's a lot of judgment that needs to be used to determine if it's going to be the correct answer, correct and successful in the long term and all that. And it leads me to a question like, have we made it to, implant in a box like with some of these ads and stuff?
We have, and I think you have to look at it. By the way, do you remember the show What's My Line?
Yep.
Okay, and I still watch it. I watch it on YouTube. And the first thing is they emphasize before they even ask the contestant questions is it a product or is it a service? A dental implant is a product, yes, but to advertise it as a product, like all dental implants, the same. No, dental implant is a service. It is the placement of the dental implant that's about 10 times more important than the implant itself. So, no, implant dentistry is a service, and that's why, yes, it does bother me. It always has bothered me when I see dental implants are being sold for a particular price. And the answer, the question you should always be asking is, who is placing the dental implant?
Yeah.
I've got Sheldon Furtado, board certified periodontist, goes to every continuing education course he can with regard to rebuilding bone and soft tissue around dental implants. Very, very, very skilled surgeon. I've got my son, Dr. Matt Sheldon. I've got Dr. Flavia Coelho. These people have spent time learning how to restore dental implants successfully. Can you imagine if you put an implant in one place, but the tooth needs to be about 4 or 5 millimeters away from where that implant is? Can you imagine the force on that dental implant? The force should be directly towards the center of the dental implant. But if you put the implant in one place and the tooth belongs someplace else, wow, you're in a little bit of trouble. It's going to be more difficult to take care of. And the forces against that implant are going to be torquing forces, which you never want in a dental implant. All of these things have to enter into our decisions before we do it. And that's why, yes, implants are a service. They're a service. They're a service. Yes, it's a product that we're putting in there, but it's the service. It's the person who's providing that service that's going to make all the difference in the world. And that's why when I'm seeing advertising and price and you can get it for this, no, it isn't the it at all. It's the who that makes all the difference.
As you're explaining that, I was thinking about, we talk about this a lot in the helping seniors world because as people call us on the helpline, 321-473-7770, and they got different questions about different things. One of the maxims that we've learned along the way is we always tell people, number one, you need to be making your aging plan. We call it getting your ducks in a row. But then we say a couple of things that are very important corollaries that we say, don't try this on your own is one of the most important. And what we mean by that is don't do the internet search on your own because you could wind up more confused or more disinformated, if that's a word, than you started out with. Now you're more confused than when you began. But then the second thing is we say you need to go to somebody that is 100% local. They're your neighbor. They're going to stand behind whatever could be anything, Dr. Sheldon. It could be if, maybe you need help figuring out your Medicare. Maybe it's time to look for an assisted living place or an independent living place as a senior. Get somebody who is an expert in this, or like your own maybe legal paperwork. We always rail against, don't fall for those ads on TV that say, oh, do your estate planning in an hour on your computer, because every elder law attorney I've ever spoken to talks about how much money that they make having to straighten out the messes people create with these do-it-yourself documents. And I'm thinking, as I'm putting those experiences together, I'm thinking, Dr. Sheldon, that's very much true when it comes to something as highly I guess, skilled and technical as getting the proper solution regarding a dental implant. You don't just want to leave that to chance or an 800 number.
It's true. There's a certain amount of relationship building that occurs, and so when you talk with the elder law attorneys, what are they doing first? They're not talking about the legal process. They're interviewing you. They want to know family members. They want to know who else is involved. They want to know what your desires are, and they want to know how you live. All of these things, which you've covered in other shows. I don't need to cover that. It's the same thing for us. When we're talking with the patient, there's a certain relationship that's built, and it's a lot more of my listening to what you want than my telling you what you need. I've got to have a full understanding, and there has to be give and take. It's why I'm so proud of Courtney and Ashley and Joy, because they're my assistants that work with me, and Katie. Katie usually assists somebody else, but Katie is right there as well. These are the examining assistants. These are the people who have experience in dentistry and can actually field your questions, sometimes better than I can. And what's interesting is when you have a really, really qualified staff member, that qualified staff member can give the answers, but also knows when she doesn't have the answers and comes back to me when they need my input for answers. So that's why this preparatory process, whether we're talking about legal or we're talking about anything, is so important, maybe more important than the actual service itself, because once the decision is made, we want to make sure that decision is executed well, it's executed expeditiously, and it's successful. But all of the things that lead up to that, the blueprints when we're talking about, or the architectural design, we're talking about building a house, the legal planning, and all of the things that need to be put in place in order to be able to allow your desires to be met, or the treatment planning that we do in our office, so that we are looking at the entire situation so we know what you're going to end up with before you start. Why those are so much more important than the execution of it itself. And then once you do the execution, once you do the work, make sure it's done by somebody who's really, really competent and can do it well. That's the ideal scene. And you're right. That's going to happen a lot more readily with somebody who you trust, who's local, than if you're shopping around online. That's just the way it's going to work. Now, that's a service, and that's the definition of a service. It's being able to evaluate and execute the plan correctly. Buying a product is a little bit different. If you have an iPhone, you can buy the same iPhone from a number of different people. By the way, they may provide different services as well, but the product itself is the same. And that's why we have to look at our providers, the people that we're dealing with, so that they listen, and listening is first before they give advice.
Well, no, this is good. I wanted to kind of wrap this part of the conversation before we get into some of these events coming up, because there's so many. I really want to leave us a minute or two to talk about them. But what's kind of the single most focal point that we want to leave with listeners as they're hearing this conversation about, are all implants the same?
I think what you want to do is look for the person who is there, who's experienced, and can provide you with the service that you need. And by the way, interview that doctor, interview those people. Go for the examination. It's why we have a relatively inexpensive examination, so they have the opportunity of interviewing us, of talking with us, and finding out whether we're the right people for you.
That's good. Dr. Lee Sheldon. So let's talk together a little bit about some events that are coming up. Before we head out the door, I just one more on that part, Dr. Sheldon. I just want to make sure people have the number to get information from you, maybe about something they heard in today's radio program. They want a clarification, they want some more information, or maybe they're interested in learning more about what might be right for them, which is why I like the Solid Bite Gives Back program, because it's a winner for everybody. It's connected. How do they reach you for that?
Okay, so online you can go to solidbite.com, solidbite.com, or call us 321-259-8000 and just say Solid Bite Gives Back, or you heard us on the radio, and every one of our staff members will know how you can get this Solid Bite Gives Back program, $50 to charity and to Helping Seniors of Brevard, and you get the full examination, all the x-rays at no charge.
That's great. Thanks, Dr. Sheldon. So, again, as we talked about at the outset of the show, don't forget tomorrow we have, it's called Nourish Your Spirit with Chef Jillian. That is happening literally tomorrow, and that is 11 to 12:30 p.m. Just give a call to 321-473-7770 and tell them you want to RSVP for that. I understand the topic for tomorrow is Dairy Month, and so she's going to be talking about non-dairy recipes because sometimes we want to be careful about that. This Friday is always a double header. We start out the day with the Walk with the Doc program at Merritt Square Mall. We will be out there at 9 a.m. with all of our friends from AARP. It's climate controlled. It's fun. They have T-shirts. They have all kinds of fun things out there, door prizes, and it's just great camaraderie, and it's doing exactly what the doctor wants us to do, which is get healthy by walking around. And that same afternoon, this Friday afternoon, 1 p.m., we're excited that Bree Prentice, who is our millennial instructor on Senior Tech Talk. She's going to be bringing us more conversation about AI. And we have a major announcement coming a little bit later this month. We're not allowed to, they call it embargoed in that world. We're not allowed to talk about it quite yet, but let me tell you, there are some big things getting ready to happen with Senior Tech Talk. So you want to be out Friday afternoon, 1 p.m. and join us for that. That's at the Senior Resource Center, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard. And then let me take you into next week because I'd like for you to this is something new. We're excited about this opportunity. This is going to be next Wednesday. In other words, a week from today, the 17th of June, we're going to be at the Senior Resource Center at 10 a.m. and we are going to have coffee with a cop. We're actually calling it Java with Joe. And I'm talking about Joe Downs, who's with the Brevard County Sheriff's Department. And he's the guy who heads up a program called Operation Lifesaver, which helps locate seniors who might be prone to wandering if they go missing. It's actually a technology service that they have as a public service in the community to help locate those folks. That's going to be our topic, but this is going to become a regular feature every I guess it's the third Wednesday of the month at the Senior Resource Center. So we're calling it Coffee with a Cop or Java with Joe. It's free. And of course, if you're going to have a cop in the house, you got to have Dunkin' Donuts and coffee. So what else would you have? So that's going to be available for you. But listen, at 11 the same day, so just plan to make the morning with us, we have Dr. Mike Edwards of the Faith College of Natural Health, and he'll be doing a presentation on your memory and how to save it. So this is next Wednesday, Coffee with a Cop. We call it Java with Joe because it's Joe Downs, a really great friend of seniors in the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. And then follow that up with Dr. Mike Edwards and your memory and how to save it. So those are a couple of great events that are coming up, and always looking ahead to the fourth Thursday that we do, where we do Knowledge College for Aging. And then we do the wellness series. And so this month, which would be Thursday, the 25th, so we're like 2 weeks out from that, we will have Knowledge College, and we're going to talk about case management and caregiving, things that you need to know about that. And then in the 11 o'clock hour, our wellness series, we're going to have Jerry Hadlock, who's a Medicare insurance expert, share with us. So lots of great things. If you missed any of it, I went too fast for you, please call us at 321-473-7770, and we will make sure we fill in any dots that I kind of went too fast over. But that's really the time we have for the Helping Seniors radio show on today. So I want to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you right back here next week on Helping Seniors Radio, lunchtime hour, 90.3 FM, WEJF.